Welcome back to the Easter Changes Everything series. Obviously, we've collabed with Rumney Chapel. So I'm from New Love Church and Ashley is from Rumney Chapel. This is the fourth and final video that you will find in this series of the stories of lives changed by Jesus from East Cardiff through to West Cardiff. Briefly, just tell the viewers who you are, how old you are, and what you do.
So my name is Ashley, I am 25 years old and currently I'm in full-time ministry, have been for the last 3 years. Started off doing stuff with Mike, I would go around double-decker buses, running youth clubs, stuff like that, but a lot more local now in the community and just helping people wherever I can and sharing about Jesus.
Wicked. So we want to get kind of from these messages, we want to see where it is that Jesus changes lives, where it is Jesus encounters people and people's lives are changed. So give me a backdrop of where that moment is for you, a little backdrop about what life was like, and then where Jesus encounters you on the journey.
Yeah, so what life was like for me, like I started going to church like 6 years old, so quite a young age. So I've always been around it, but I think back then, like I used to love playing Pokemon. We were talking about this earlier, and I would just get my console out, and I'd sometimes even play it in church. But I was constantly being fed these stories growing up, and hearing I heard about David and Goliath and Samson and his hair and all these different stories. I could tell you about all of them. So I knew it all growing up, but there wasn't really much more than that. It was just a bunch of great stories, interesting stories, and I came along because I had to, because my nan was in church. My mum made me basically, but that's sort of like where I came from. And I used to hang out in the street and just hang out with my mates and stuff like that. But it was nothing that serious when I was younger, when I was growing up, but I've always been in this sort of environment growing up.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. So along that journey then, just kind of real normal life, like the story of most people growing up in this city. That's the same, right, for most people. Along that journey then, like you're in church, but you're not engaged. What is it, and where along that journey do you encounter God for yourself and say, whoa, this is something worth living for?
So for myself, like I've always been someone who like works quite logically. Like I have to think about everything that's going on in the background and be like, well, does this really make sense? Can this be true? And for me, it was when I was actually in a camp. It was either Supergang or Teen Scene. It was either the last year in Supergang or the first year in Teen Scene. But I know Di Hankey was there speaking, and he was talking about the best butts in the Bible. That was the sermon topic that he had for the whole week. And it was just amazing. I just remember just listening every single night, being like, for the first time, I think, actually like taking it in, like grasping it. Like it wasn't just like stories, like interesting stories that you might hear. It's like, wait, is this about a real guy? And like I started questioning that. I started like just speaking to Di, other people there that week, and I came to the end of that week where I just went, do you know what? Like I believe it. I believe this is truth, and if it is truth, then my life can't just be, as lazy and lackadaisical as it was, but actually I need to start doing something about it. And for me, that's when there was sort of like a shift, and I went from, just knowing these stories and just knowing them because I've heard them all my life, to actually like understanding a bit of what these stories were, and actually trying to find out a bit more about these stories, like growing up, like what does this story that was told, like, it's in the Bible 2,000 years ago, like what is that relevance in my life? And so I've just, years from that was a lot of development, growing and learning about it.
Wicked. And I really love these kind of stories of like normality, because as we said, like it is probably 90% of our city that is the normal story. Like we go about, and I think there can be an element in culture of like, well, fine, if you want to go to church, you go to church. But if I don't want to, it don't make the slightest bit of difference. I can still work, I can still get married, I can still have a family, I can still do all these normal things. Like ultimately then, what is important about the Jesus story impacting our normal life, and still saying, yo, we're still going to do normal things. We're still going to be normal people. We're still going to go about our normal lives. We're still going to cook nice food. We're still going to enjoy music. We're still going to play games. We're still going to do those things. But there's something uniquely important about the Jesus story that's so important for people to grasp. And what is that? Because we're not necessarily even talking about everyone's got to go and be a preacher. Everyone's got to be a worship leader. Everyone's got to whatever. We're just saying everyone needs to know Jesus. So why?
Yeah, obviously for me, it's so much more than that, and it is literally my lifestyle right now. But just like, for me, that first turning point when I started to grasp it. I think that the biggest way that comes to me is just hope, like just that security, knowing what I'm living for, who I'm living for, and why I'm doing it. And so it might be the same things, but actually for me often is just something a bit deeper than that. It's great running a youth club, but it's even more beneficial when I know that I can bring people to a place where they meet Jesus and not only experience life, but they experience life to the full. And for me, that's just been massive. And in everything that I do, there's just this sense of hope, knowing that I'm not going it alone. Like I got strength from God in all those situations, and He's just really supported me in a lot of that, and what I've done over the years. But also, just knowing that He's dependable, right? And He's like that rock, that foundation in my life. Sometimes something comes along, tries to shake it, there'll be a storm, but I know that there's someone who never changes. It's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And it's just amazing that I can build my life on such a solid foundation, and that I know that I can trust Him in all of that.
Yeah, that's wicked. I want to grasp then. So for you, people actually might not know, but like music's a massive thing. Yeah. Let's home into music itself and say the story of Jesus brings things to color. Like it's the why behind the what, and it's the why behind the who as well. It's the why behind our existence. So things that were once done, things that were once played, things that were just done in essence of like do we just go about this life and just enjoy ourselves? And in the enjoyment of it, there's a lot to be enjoyed, but does it go further than that? For you, using like music as an example, does like Jesus bring that to color? Are you able to be a musician in, say, outside of the church environment? Yeah. Are you able to be just a normal musician that plays gigs and whatever, but actually have a purpose behind it?
Yeah, like that's actually really interesting when you talk about music, because for me, the whole starting point of that was I just loved singing and I loved worshiping in church. I didn't know how to play any instruments or anything like that, and it was actually when I was probably 16, 17, started borrowing Mike's guitar and just picking up and learning it. And the whole purpose for me back then was so I could just pick it up and sing songs whenever I liked. Like, I didn't have to wait for a Sunday morning when people were around to actually worship. And so for me, that's where it like stemmed from. And actually, there was a lot of boundaries just in terms of my own like just personal feelings of being out on stage and stuff like that, out in front of people. Like, I was terrified of all like that. But I knew in those moments, and the reason that I had confidence in music is because I knew if people were focused on me when I was leading at the front, that they were the ones who got it wrong. They shouldn't be focusing on me, they should be focusing on God. And so for me, that was a massive pressure relief in actually just singing out in front of people. Because there was once a post where I said, you never catch me singing out in the front on a Sunday morning. But it's amazing the way that God can change and transform us. And, here I am a few years later, and I've sung in front of, hundreds of people at events at this point. And like, I wouldn't have never thought I would do that years ago. But just through music, through spending time with God, there was just this development that happened in my life, not only in my music abilities, but also in just the way I can hold myself, my own stature, and being out in front of people, like not being afraid, and knowing that I can just go, like, just be solid in that moment. And in terms of secular music as well, like for sure, like I love both types of music, and I actually like to sort of incorporate them together because everyone loves music. But even my brother, for example, like my brother, he's not a believer, but he'll hear me like playing some songs that he would listen to, and then I'll start playing some worship songs, and it's so funny because you just be sat there just like listening and enjoying that. And so it's quite funny. I think sometimes there's like this idea of how like Christian music is, but actually it's so enjoyable. And the words behind it, I think that's where it becomes a lot more important. It's the words behind it and what are you singing. And for me, that's why it's worship songs is what I normally listen to, because it just takes it to a whole new level, because it's personal. Like it's literally my everyday life, and knowing that as I'm singing it, I'm like, yeah, God is my rock. So yeah, I love music, and I just looking for more ways to actually honor God in that.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's one of the things I really think that the gospel brings forth is that ultimately, we get taught from a young age to go to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. You're going to find fulfillment in the next thing, whether that be through good grades in school, through to uni, through to PhD, through to work or whatever, or the next job, or it's the next car. And we're constantly told that, and that goes through all sectors as well, in creative industries too, with like music and the arts. It's when this person follows you, it's when this person likes your stuff. But ultimately, we as Christians, as people who've given our lives to Jesus, can be a people who have first found fulfillment, who have found fulfillment in the finished work of Jesus, who say, yo, we're giving everything over. And so actually everything that we enjoyed in life already can be enjoyed in its fullest sense, because we're not going to find fulfillment through those things. We're coming into those things and enjoying those with God because we've already found our fulfillment. I think that's the essence of like the Christian life and the normal Christian life. The Christian life that is literally just like still family life, still friendships, still eating food, still like everything that everyone does on a day-to-day basis. All of that is done in the fulfillment of who God is, and our identity being founded in that and not in the pursuit of. And so fulfillment is found in and not in the pursuit of. I think that's your story, that's my story, that's the story of so many people. And so thank you so much for sharing it. If you would like to find out any more, then we're currently sat outside Rumney Chapel. You guys can come along on Sundays or throughout the week, and there's people around. These guys at Rumney Chapel would love to meet with you. Same from West Cardiff. If you guys would like to meet us, then come to New Life Church. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to talk to you more about the good news of Easter, the story that changes everything, the story that takes darkness to light, hopelessness to hope-filled, brokenness to wholeness is all found in the person of Jesus. Thank you very much.